it's your girl Jen, and I've been spending the majority of my time reading. It's either reading a book or playing Animal Crossing. And I find that it really melts by the hours and makes time go by super fast for me. But the key is, you gotta find the right book. It's gotta hook you and then reel you in. So for today's video, I'm gonna share with you 10 books that have really just made time zoom by for me. But before I get into my countdown, I want to do a little plug for my book club that just launched. It's called Curl Up Club, and it's on Instagram. You can follow us and join the community that way. I will leave a link in the description box. So without further ado, let's get on to the list. So my first recommendation is not going to be a surprise for you if you watch my channel, but it is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I love suspense, I love thrillers, I like being on edge, I like being surprised. And it just had a lot of elements that really grabbed my attention. First up, there's not like a murder, but it's like a massacre. So there are multiple people who are horrifically killed, and that happens to be Libby's mom and her sisters. Second, there's like a satanic group, so it's like creepy and intriguing. But yeah, the story follows Libby and her life 25 years later, and she is finally ready to investigate what happened on that super dark time of her life. I just love Gillian Flynn's writing. It's like descriptive, but it's realistic, and she just has wonderful pacing. Like it moves fast, but not too fast. She is truly the thriller queen. So next up on my list, I have Pachinko by Min-Jin Lee. Now this is a heartbreaking historical fiction about what happened to Korea during Japanese rule. I think this book really hit home for me as a Korean because growing up, I learned about the Japanese rule when I was in my Korean classes. There was a lot of inhumane things that have happened and racism that's still like bubbles today. And in order to understand that tension, I think this book sheds a lot of light. It covers all the hardships that Korean people had to go through during this time. Some Koreans would actually flee to Japan in hopes of a better life to try and assimilate. But when they got there, they realized, oh crap, like it's just as inhumane and racist over there as well. And so a lot of Koreans had to resort to crime for jobs. So they would open these gambling stations called pachinkos. So that's how Koreans living in Japan made a living that way. If you guys were ever curious about what had happened during this time, this book will shed some light for you. So my next book recommendation is by a Japanese author named Keigo Higashino, and the book is called The Devotion of Suspect X. And if you love drama and crime and suspense, this book has got it all, baby. It is very, very intense. It's about a single mom who has recently been like divorced. The ex-husband is like really abusive and he ends up finding her, and then one thing leads to another, and like now they have to get rid of a dead body. So this book kind of shows you how difficult it is to dispose a dead body and how hard it is to cover your tracks. And it also shows you like how a stranger in your life can just like be so dedicated to you blindly. And there's like kind of like a beauty in that. I don't know, maybe it's like borderline obsession. I guess it is obsession and romanticizing, but I don't know. I just like, it kind of like tugged at my heart a little bit. So my next recommendation is Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Susan. Like I actually have the hard copy. It's very rare for me to like have a copy on my Kindle and the actual like book. There's something about reading about extremely glamorous women living from the 1940s to the 1960s. And I know that's a very specific timeline, but there's something about this time period that really gets me going. So the book follows 3 women who are just trying to make it into the entertainment industry. First, there's Anne, who is so sweet and innocent and just like so naive. She's like one of those beautiful girls that doesn't know she's beautiful, and then like everyone's like, oh wow, but did you know like how much potential you have? And then there's Neely, who is this like up and coming super talented singer, completely undiscovered. And then you kind of see like how fame can corrupt you and kind of rot you as a person if you already don't have a great foundation with yourself. And then there's Jennifer, who is an absolute bombshell, but unfortunately that's like as far as that goes. But somewhere down the line, all 3 of these women happen to get addicted to popping pills, aka the little dolls. And so yeah, that's why you see like all these pills here. So this book was released in 1966 and it was hella scandalous. Like the tea is hot in this book. Even when I was reading this, I was like, oh, like I feel like I need to get a towel. Like this is crazy. Like so I couldn't even imagine what it would have been like to have read this during that time when it was released. But yeah, please go check it out. I love this book. So next up on the list, I have City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. This book is like similar vibes to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Now that book is also a masterpiece, but I feel like I have recommended it to you guys so many times that I just wanted to give it a break. But they're both similar in the sense that it's like older women kind of reminiscing about their lives of the past. It's about a girl named Vivian, and she just cannot get her shit together. So her parents give her to their aunt, and her aunt owns like this amazing theater. It's not amazing, but she owns a theater, and now Vivian has access to these actors and actresses and showgirls, and she just plunges into the decadent 1940s nightlife. And Vivian's like beautiful, she's rich, and that opens up a lot of doors for her. And so, you know, there's like binge drinking, there's drugs, there's sex. It's got it all. And this book doesn't just follow her in that time period. It like follows her as she gets older and older. And so you see how she matures and how she gains more perspective about her identity and what it's like to finally have that first taste of freedom when you're like away from your parents. We all have that moment of like moving out of your parents' house and you're like, damn, like I can do whatever I want. And it basically shows you what it's like to feel that and do that in the 1940s. So I love this book. Next up, I have Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. I feel like this book is getting a lot of traction because the TV show is up and going on Hulu. It takes place in Shaker Heights, Ohio, which is just like a perfect cookie cutter neighborhood with specific rules and philosophy. And there's Elena Richardson, who has lived in Shaker Heights her entire life. She lives, she breathes it, she loves it. And she has this house where she just kind of rents out to tenants. And a new tenant comes in, Mia Wallace, who is like the definition of like a starving artist. Like she will put her art above everything else. Like maybe not her daughter, but they're like up close. And so Elena's just kind of like really bewildered by Mia. At first she's like, oh wow, like this is like the kind of tenant I want. And then she realizes like, oh my gosh, we're like so different. And then vice versa. So it shows the friction between both the mothers. It raises questions of like, what is a good mother? What is a good life? Like what is the right way to live? And it just made me ponder a lot of that. And I like books that really make me think and go, I could see both sides. I think a good book for me is when there is no real enemy because you can empathize from both perspectives. Now I have the book After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid, another author that I'm constantly plugging. But this book is about what happens after marriage. So this follows a couple named Lauren and Ryan, and they're married, but they're at their breaking point. Like, I feel like she does such a great job of describing that feeling where you're like at the end of the road in your relationship, where you're like looking at like your partner and you're just like, I have no idea who you are anymore. And by the way, like this is not like mirroring my relationship with Ben. Like me and Ben are good, but it just reminded me of how I felt at the end of the road with my other relationships in the past. But yeah, if you've ever been through any heartbreak, this book might be for you. Or if you just want to feel and like read a realistic love story, this book is for you. Personally, I'm not a big fan of rom-coms. I'm just like, this is a lie. There's so much fluff. I just like honesty in love, and love can look like so many different types of things. And this book really highlights that. So check it out. So next up on the list, I have Edie, An American Girl by Jane Stein. This is a biography about Edie Sedgwick, who was a complete icon of the 60s. Like she was probably like the first it girl superstar, socialite. She was like Andy Warhol's muse. She's a lot of people's fashion inspiration, even today. And there was something so charming about her, and I've always been fascinated and intrigued about her life. I think the first chapter you can kind of skim over because it goes like down the Sedgwick family tree. Like you are learning about her grandparents, her dad, her mom, and you're just like, okay, like this is a lot. But once like Edie gets into the picture, like I feel like that's when it got really interesting for me. I find that the chapters when she meets Andy Warhol, I found that chapter to be the most exciting because I feel like that is the era that I always like romanticize about it. Like I was never there, but there's something about it that seems so cool. It's like the height of art, of music, of just collectiveness. Like even if some of it was an illusion, I think the intention was there. And I think because it was so new and novel to the people, I think that's why it was so exaggerated. And I feel like that's why the 60s are so crazy. It's like it was a lot of rebellion against the crimped cookie cutter lifestyle that was once worshipped. Like the 1960s was just like drugs, it was sex, it was expression, it was everything. And I feel like that's why I am so drawn to it. So yeah, this book really follows you throughout Edie's life all the way up to her untimely death while still representing what it was like in the 60s. So next up, I have Ali Wong's Dear Girls. I love Ali Wong. She is one of my favorite stand-up comedians and her book is so funny. I literally smashed it out within like 2 days. It's a memoir, but in the form of letters to her daughters. It's one of those books where you just feel like they're talking to you, and sometimes you just need a book like that too. It's really hilarious and funny and very honest. I also love the parts where she talks about San Francisco because I always get like a big kick when I'm reading something and I'm like, oh, like I know where that is, or like I've been there before. Like it's just, I don't know. I just get happy about that. But I really enjoyed the descriptions of the Bay Area and through her lens. So yeah, if you guys are looking for just like a good memoir that's like light, funny, and also deep, check out Dear Girls. So last up, I have Steve-O's Professional Idiot. And I know you might be thinking, why are you recommending this book? Is it worthwhile? Yes. I enjoy reading about people's lives who are colorful and interesting. And honestly, Steve-O's life is both of those things. I ran across Steve-O's YouTube channel and I got into like this binge hole of just watching his stories, and he'd always say like, oh, like if you want more stories, like just check out my book. And I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And I was not disappointed. It was very interesting to see what it's like to be someone who is addicted to adrenaline. All the way from like when he was younger doing like skating tricks to when he got into clown college and then he was doing stunts, and all the way to Jackass, and then just how fame kind of changed him. Like it's all of that, and he holds nothing back. It's definitely a wild ride. All right, guys, those are all my recommendations. I would love it if you wrote any of your suggestions about, books that made time go by really fast in the comments down below. Also, if you'd like to join my book club, it's called Curl Up Club. I'll also leave that in the description box. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Mwah.